October 7th, 2022, there's reports of a woman going from house to house, crying, begging for help. Neighbors not knowing that she's a victim of a sexual assault and a kidnapping. The suspect was later identified as Timothy Haslett Jr. He held the young lady captive for over a month in his basement in Excelsior Springs, Missouri. But also, the police have been warned for months about the missing black women in Kansas City, and they shot it down and said there's no connection with a serial killer. And then less than a month later, this happens.
Senior I-Team reporter Jessica McMaster sat in on the court hearing this afternoon. She joins us from Clay County.
Investigators say Timothy Haslett Jr. kept a woman captive in his basement in a small room he built himself. He's charged with rape and kidnapping. Today, a judge entered a not guilty plea as Haslett awaits to be appointed a public defender. Timothy Haslett Jr. made his first court appearance Friday afternoon. The bearded 39-year-old is accused of holding a woman captive in his basement for nearly a month until she escaped, knocking on doors Friday morning, pleading for help.
She didn't have much of a voice, so it was more like a light help me.
Lisa Johnson says she looked out her window to see a woman walking up her front stairs in need of help. Johnson called 911.
And as I did, she started to go next door. It frightened her. She told me if I called the cops that he'd kill us both.
Next door is where Sierra Tharp's grandmother lives.
She heard a woman screaming and came knocking on the door, so she opened the door.
Tharp says her grandmother brought the woman inside.
The lady said, "You have to help me. I've been raped. I've been held captive."
Court records reveal at the time of her escape, the victim was wearing a metal collar with a padlock, had duct tape around her neck, and was dressed in a trash bag. The same thing reported by witnesses.
She had a metal dog collar around her neck, and she could see the ligature marks on her wrists. And my grandma sat there and she talked to her and stuff till the police came.
The victim tells investigators she was raped repeatedly and whipped by Haslett, handcuffed at the ankles and wrists, and held captive since September. She tells investigators she escaped when Haslett took his child to school. Johnson says she's familiar with Haslett and his young son.
Nothing that would make somebody's head turn.
But the bruises and marks on Haslett's apparent victim, too obvious to ignore.
She was so weak, so weak. And I could see the markings on her wrists. I actually seen some on her ankle too.
Haslett is due back in court next Tuesday on the 18th. For the I-Team, I'm Jessica McMaster, KSHB 41 News.
To me, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling because at the end of the day, Kansas City just had a serial killer there last year. Just had one. Perez Reed. Does Perez Reed ring any bells? If you don't know who Perez Reed is, Perez Reed was a serial killer who started here in St. Louis and actually did videos on him. And he killed some women here, and then in Kansas City he killed a black couple in Kansas City. And if you guys want me to, I actually did a couple of videos on him on my other channel. If you guys want me to repost it, let me know. But it's crazy that they didn't think about Perez Reed just was a serial killer and killed some people there. And you guys didn't think to look into the situation. Within the last, I think, 5 years, you guys had 3 serial killers caught. Well, Timothy Haslett, I'm going to just say a possible, 2 and a possible. 2 and a possible. Even with Perez Reed's case, around that time, it was a bunch of black women dying. I think around that time when I talked about it, it was about 11 at that point here in St. Louis. And you have city officials here that's, oh, it's not a serial killer, Bam, what happens? Months later, he pops up, he gets caught, kills a couple in Kansas City. But even with that, they don't pay attention to, like when it comes to a lot of sisters here, St. Louis is one of the highest places for sex trafficking. When black women go missing, I immediately assume that it has something to do with sex trafficking a lot of times here because of the rates of sex trafficking here. One of the highest rates. And they don't get paid attention to at all. if he's a serial killer, right, Timothy Haslett, imagine how many lives could have possibly been saved if the police would have just actually paid attention to it, did some investigations, instead of shooting people's ideas down or theories. Because now, how many black women has he done that to? He had this woman in his basement for over a month, using whips, sexually assaulting her, while having a child in the house. Situations like this is the reason why when I originally started doing content on YouTube, I started doing videos about, as far as us in the black community, knowing our gun laws, knowing certain things, knowing how to carry guns. It's a bunch of different stuff I started doing when it comes to the Second Amendment, because we need to know it. And I will be starting back up on that channel, so if you want to subscribe to it and learn about your laws, I could be doing your state. You never know. You never know. And if you have any suggestions on cases, anything's going on, videos I should do about certain mysteries or deaths, whatever, please comment it in the comment section, because I'm always willing to look into new stuff. Like I said, this channel is about a lot of stuff that goes on in our community that don't get talked about. The fact that our community don't get enough attention when it comes to us going missing, with a lot of deaths in the community. Because look at Asia Degree, look at Phoenix Colton, look at all these people that go missing, and people talk about it, but then it just goes away. And you get people that know stuff that won't speak up, because in the day it ain't snitching, it's doing the right thing. So like, comment, subscribe. Please stay safe out there.